podataka iz nevladinog sektora, mi zaista duboko cenimo njihov doprinos ispred Kancelarije za ljudska i manjinska prava i izradi i ovog strateškog dokumenta koji sam vam
Gospođo Neumann, pitanje koje ste postavili odnosi se na predmete koji se nalaze pred ombudsmanom i razlozi za odbacivanje pritužbi. U 2012. godini bilo je 4474 pritužbi, od kojih su 55 bili vezani za rodnu ravnopravnost, 3 preporuke i nekoliko predloga. Potpuno smo sigurni da se postupak sprovodi u skladu sa zakonskim procedurama i ostalim pratećim aktima. Jedan broj pritužbi se sigurno odbaci iz formalno-procesnih razloga zbog nepoštovanja procedure, ali je činjenica da dok se u toku vođenja postupka sigurni smo potpuno da zaštitnik građana vodi računa o načelu pomoći nekoj stranci i da sigurno pomaže tokom tog postupka. Međutim, sigurno je da pojedini od tih predmeta ne predstavljaju zapravo diskriminaciju, ali ne predstavljaju zapravo povredu ili na kraju se, kao i u sudskim procesima, dođe do toga da zapravo pritužba nije bila osnovana. To naravno nikako ne znači da ne treba da nastavimo sa obukama i ne samo žena, nego svih onih ljudi diskriminisanih grupa koji se mogu naći potrebi da pokrenu postupak od zaštitnika građana i to se naravno na svim nivoima svakodnevno radi. Ali ipak taj broj pritužbi je definitivno manji nego onaj koji se završi nekom od mogućnosti koje ima zaštitnik građana, nekom od mera koje u okviru svojih nadležnosti zaštitnik građana ima. I mislim da je to takođe bilo pitanje, da li je vaše, odnosi se na dovoljno novca za rad poverenika za zaštitu ravnopravnosti. U budžetu Republike Srbije za ovu godinu su u potpunosti obezbeđena sredstva za normalno funkcionisanje kancelarije, tačnije tog tela, do kraja ove godine. Naravno da planiramo da to tijelo nesmetano radi u narednom periodu, s time što će naravno u zavisnosti od ekonomskih mogućnosti ta sredstva biti uvećavana i možemo konstatovati, mada je to naravno ipak predmet ozbiljnije rasprave, da li ima se dovoljno kapaciteta za ono što se treba uraditi, ali za sada oni ispunjavaju svoje obaveze u skladu sa zakonima po kojima su osnovani. Pitanje koje se odnosi na komisiju gospođe Šimunović i na moju konstataciju samo jednog člana šestočlane komisije koji je muškarac, a nekada imamo i tu situaciju da nam je manji broj muškaraca, ali gospođa Vesna Nikolić, koja je predsednica koordinacionog tela, želi da odgovori na pitanje rada te komisije. Izvolite.
Hvala vam što ste mi dali reč. Što se tiče, u pitanju sam sistem bezbednosti, muškarci, dakle u sistemu bezbednosti i dalje vladaju, iako su na tom polju učinjeni veliki pozitivni pomaci. Zato je vest o tome da je formirana komisija koja će pratiti faktički
delimično je gospođa Punića odgovorila, gospodin Dragan Knežević. Molim vas, kolege, kratko.
Evo najkraće što možda. If I may interrupt you, we can go a little bit more rapidly now because we need to keep time for the other articles. If I can give you 1 minute, maybe.
Možda ne i minut. Vlada Republike Srbije formirala je u aprilu Savet za rodnu ravnopravnost. To je telo koje predlaže mere za unapređivanje politike ostvarivanja ravnopravnosti žena i muškaraca, daje inicijative za preduzimanje kratkoročnih i dugoročnih mera na ovom polju i radi i druge poslove koji se odnose na unapređenje politike postizanja rodne ravnopravnosti. Članovi i članice tela su kako predstavnici različitih državnih resora i to političkog nivoa, državni sekretari i pomoćnici ministara, tako i lica iz redova civilnog društva, istaknutih aktivista i branilaca ljudskih prava koji učestvuju u radu ovog tela i na najvišem strategijskom nivou mogu uticati na politiku ostvarivanja rodne ravnopravnosti u Srbiji. Imalo bi još toga da se kaže, ali ću se zadržati ovde kako bismo sačuvali vreme za ostale primjedbe. Hvala.
Hvala i samo kratak poslednji odgovor na pitanje predsjedavajućeg koji je vezan za položaj Romkinja, gospođa Suzana Pavlović.
Nažalost, odgovor je kratak na ono što je najteže pitanje u ovom trenutku u Srbiji. Ako govorimo o tome da sva istraživanja pokazuju da su Romi, a posebno Romkinje, grupa koja je najizloženija diskriminaciji pored LGBT zajednice u srpskom društvu. U odnosu na godine koje su za nama u Srbiji je napravljen značajan pomak kada je u pitanju položaja Roma, pre svega kroz obezbeđivanje bolje evidencije, dakle upisa u matične knjige rođenih koji je omogućen izmenama zakonskih rješenja, time je omogućeno i dobijanje dokumenta za Rome i Romkinje, čime se naravno obezbeđuje i bolji pristup drugim pravima. U odnosu na 2005. godinu 25% dece je više koja pohađaju prvi razred osnovne škole, ostaje jako veliki problem sa potrebom da se da podrška kako bi se obrazovni procesi završio. Kada govorimo o smanjenoj stopi smrtnosti romske dece, za 50% je opala smrtnost romske dece u odnosu na 2005. godinu, ali je ona i dalje duplo veća u odnosu na opštu populaciju u Srbiji. Ono što želim da istaknem je da ćemo u narednom periodu intenzivno raditi i dalje na daljem omogućavanju pristupa Roma osnovnim pravima, na uspostavljanju mobilnih timova u lokalnim samoupravama kao posebnoj vidu podrške Romima i Romkinjama, na jačanju kapaciteta organizacija civilnog društva. Ovde mi već imamo ostvarenu saradnju sa ženskom romskom mrežom, koja pre svega u ovom trenutku preduzima zaista veliki broj aktivnosti na podizanju svijesti žena Romkinja. Ono što želim da istaknem je da radimo intenzivno na pitanju poboljšanja stambenih uslova i to jeste jedno od najtežih pitanja sa kojima se u ovom trenutku suočavamo, pre svega zbog potrebe velikih sredstava da bi se ova pitanja rešila. I ono što naravno ostaje kao značajno pitanje na kome treba raditi jeste pitanje zapošljavanja koje je u tesnoj vezi sa pitanjem obrazovanja. Zbog skraćenog vremena ja prosto ne bih iznosila statistiku, ona je u ovom trenutku već i jedan sastavni deo našeg izveštaja. Hvala.
Merci beaucoup. Et maintenant, nous passons aux articles 4, 5 et 6. Je donne d'abord la parole à Madame Haidar sur l'article 4.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before addressing the temporary special measures under Article 4, I just wanted to link into Article 3, the whole discussion and clarification provided by the delegation, to also suggest that when is Serbia intending to adopt the UN Declaration on Human Rights Defenders? I think this would take a lot of the pressure on and will improve the quality of interaction with the civil society. So an answer on this, if there is any intention to adopt, would be helpful. Concerning the temporary special measures, we thank definitely representation to 32.4 representation of women. This does not apply across the board to all executive level, and it does not necessarily, we don't have at least statistics on senior judges, on police officer in senior position, on faculty deans, on all the other sectors that complement this representation of women, and that is of key importance. So are there any particular measures? Again, we go back to the issue of training, awareness raising, advocacy, empowerment, and because ultimately the special measures are about empowering women, are about making their access to their economic role more full-fledged. On the special measures as well, I think there's an opportunity to address the most vulnerable group through special measures. This is a country, again, where you have still post-conflict situation, where you have demobilized soldier women, where you have IDPs, where you have so many of these categories that maybe targeting them through special measures can address and redress some of the situation. In addition to all what was mentioned, disabled women, Roma women, I think also women with HIV/AIDS would be also a target group through special measures. So I am just wondering what are the intention currently to use the special measures more proactively and maybe use it as an opportunity to work in a better synergy with the civil society in terms of launching a wide information campaign. Because if we have temporary special measures, but we do not have information transmitted to the vulnerable group about the temporary special measures, they're not going to be used, they're not going to be activated, they're not going to be helpful enough. So it is very much about how you go about mobilizing the information, disseminating it, reaching out for all the groups, and giving the kind of support for them to seize the opportunity of the temporary special measures. So this is extremely key. The NGOs, again, could be really a good extension and arm to reach out on these issues. So any information on the current intention, how to go about it, how to make these temporary special measures more targeted. Again, we heard about indicator. We're happy to know that this is a work in progress. But again, on the temporary special measures, it would be very important next time to be having indicators, what works, what didn't work, and why, so that it is constantly informing you back on the policy implementation. Thank you.
Could you continue, Madam Haidar, on Article 5? Because you already have the floor. I'm sorry, it was Madame Gab. There was a mistake on the list. I have the floor. Thank you. Madam Chairperson, I've listened to the statements this morning, the introduction, which talk about deal, in particular in the area of legislation. But in the process of implementation of this legislation and the measures, there continue to be many challenges. That's something you have recognized and admitted in the report, which you have just presented to the committee. You say that in spite of the regulations and the laws that work to promote equality, it remains that there's a traditional approach to the situation of women in society. You've recognized this, and our committee examined your report in 2007 and emphasized the need to consider these issues related to persistent stereotypes, patriarchal stereotypes. This, of course, hinders all of the actions and activities that you've undertaken, as well as the legislation that you are promulgating. many programs and activities which guarantee equality and non-discrimination against women. The question goes much further beyond programs in the media and assistance activities, because your response preceding this session, you mentioned this, but this requires a more comprehensive approach. I hope that you will be able to talk to us about your views for what will happen in the future on this very important subject of having an integrated, comprehensive approach. There's also the issue of the Roma group, and they're facing discrimination because there's not a very positive approach towards them in society. And there are stereotypes even within this group of people, the Roma. Marriage for young women at too young an age. How are you dealing with these questions? There are also preconceived ideas in society with respect to certain groups. Cooperation with NGOs. Some people think that NGOs they're often seen as being sponsored by foreign entities. They do not serve national interests. Or this is also true with respect to human rights defenders. All of this requires a certain vision to be taken, and I will stop here because I know that my colleague will continue along these lines. But this, of course, all of this requires political will and a comprehensive national plan. So what is your vision for the future? Thank you, Madam Ajar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I must reiterate the fact that we have been given a truly impressive list of new laws, new strategies, new action plans on issues that have to do with CEDAW matters. And so the next sentence that will continue is that such a barrage of new legislation and new policies means whole-scale and rapid transformation of the social norms and mentalities. That this is necessary in the civil society as well as among those who are the implementers and monitors of these laws and policies. Sometimes, and we do have this in other countries, in many of our own countries too, this means that there are contradictions and inconsistencies. It even appears that what one hand is doing sometimes is undone by the other hand. This is particularly the case when we deal with deep-rooted prejudices and traditional attitudes in the area of gender equality. Now, it's particularly true for changing social norms and customary practices based on stereotype rules, and I think this is what Madam Gaber before me was also referring to. Modifying the social and cultural patterns of conduct that are causing and supporting stereotypes requires a special energy, consistency and continuity in policies. Now, we have some information that strengthening of such stereotypes, particularly in the context of the family and spousal relations, is going on in Serbian society. What has been described as a re-traditionalization of Serbian society is what I want to refer for the sake of making it short. And we have also had some information that there is general political or ideological support for this kind of re-traditionalization of gender roles in society. We have information from your report and others that women are indeed primary agents taking care of children, the elderly and the disabled in your society, and it appears that there is a trend for women to increasingly be responsible for homework and family responsibilities, and men to have more decision-making power or financial means, financial matters in the family. Now, we know from our experience what is the government position regarding this retraditionalization in the family context? And secondly, my other question is, what preventive and proactive policies are there to ensure that this does not lead to a crystallization of stereotypical roles for women and men in the private sphere, what we call the private sphere, that is the sphere of the family, and at the same time as other measures are being taken to improve women's conditions in different areas? Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. I give the floor to Madam Simonovic.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. On Article 5, I would like to address violence against women, and we have already started with the Istanbul Convention that was mentioned by Madam colleagues and my delegation, and your plans to ratify the Istanbul Convention. You have already mentioned that in Serbia one conference was organized on new standards to protect women against violence and domestic violence. And my colleague Ms. Neubauer and myself participated in that conference together with your national expert, Madam Gordana Gasmi. And at this level, during our constructive dialogue, I would like to emphasize that what is in the Istanbul Convention is also in the CEDAW Convention, obligations under the Istanbul Convention to combat violence against women, obligations that are also coming from CEDAW Convention and General Recommendation number 19 that is addressing violence against women. I would like to proceed with some questions that are related to data collection. Could we have maybe data on number of women killed by their partners and intimate partners in past few years, whatever is available? Do you analyze such data in order to see what was missed, what could be improved, which other protection measures are needed to avoid such horrible outcome that is really very important to prevent? Could we also have information how your judiciary is collecting statistical data? Do you have possibility to have statistical data that is revealing this kind of relationship between perpetrator and the victim? Because in former Yugoslavia, our judicial systems, they do collect segregated data on perpetrators and on victims, but there are not linkages between. We do not see what is really going on in the field of violence against women. Then could you have information about services and shelters that are available? How many shelters you have, number of places, and what is the situation with respect to financial situation of shelters? Are they financed by the government, or do you receive resources from the international community? To have immediate protection orders, could we have also information with respect to possibility of police to issue immediate protection orders, or if this is not the case, how protection orders are issued, what is the time frame? Then could we also have information about services available to Roma girls and women in cases of violence against women and domestic violence? And my last question is connected with prosecution of war crimes and war violence. Do you have any information with respect to the situation of victims of war violence? How you are dealing with such victims, and do they have a specific status? Do they have specific services that are dealing with different types of psychological help that is still needed in many cases? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Simonovic. Good morning, everybody. You might have changed a little, change of guard here, but we'll continue now with Article 6, and I give the floor to Madam Gaber. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chairperson. With respect to trafficking, Serbia acceded to the Palermo Protocol and adopted the European Convention. This is very positive with respect to this question, but we still have problems. We still know problems in terms of application. There are accusations and complaints that have been made in 2010, 2011. But until now, according to the information that we have, there's only been one tribunal of first instance. Why is this? Perhaps there needs to be more awareness raising among magistrates in the field of administration of justice. This is my first question. Now my second question is the following. With respect to the concluding observations of the committee in 2007, we mentioned services for coordinating assistance to victims of trafficking. You said that now you have a center which deals with this. What are its competences? What is its mandate? What is its role? Is it a coordination mechanism? I will not ask questions about the budget because it seems that financing in terms of dealing with trafficking is quite limited, perhaps even non-existent. That is a concern to us. Now third, you've cooperated with UN agencies, you have joint programs, and you've established your own national plan. But after when this foreign financing is no longer available, we note that the question does not just depend on financing. The same situation exists in Egypt, but once you have this experience that you have acquired from 2007 until 2012, the date when this joint program expires, I could make the assumption that you will be able to continue it thanks to coordination and cooperation. So what hinders you from having a second or third plan of action that is based on your own capacities, even if they are modest? And I'm aware of the modest capacities because I've dealt with this question in my own country. There could be a mechanism that could make it possible to identify victims and distinguish between victims of trafficking and victims of other crimes. You must have enough experience and expertise in this field. You have the Fund for the Protection of Victims. That requires financing. We don't need to talk about this now, but I hope that you will keep this in mind in the future. Now, another important question I would like to deal with is that certainly you're considered as being a country of origin and a country of transit and a country of destination, so all three. This means that you must look at the basic causes of the problem. And in most cases, the causes are poverty, social marginalization, limited social services, and unemployment. All of that leads to illegal activities. That is the situation in your country because the victims of trafficking often work in prostitution and in illegal activities. Often they are beggars. So how are you looking at the fundamental basic causes of the proliferation of these crimes? I also have a question about the approach you've taken to this issue in the school curriculum. In Egypt, this is also part of the school curriculum. So pupils and students from a very young age must learn about the importance of this problem. This continues at the university level, of course, but it begins at school. There's also a role played by NGOs and civil society. No government can play the role alone. It requires positive collaboration with civil society. Civil society can also help you. In various ways. This, without bringing up many obstacles, this is a very important question, and it's also important for victim assistance. Thank you.
Thank you very much.